In this video, I am going to show you the 6 steps to effectively measure and track change management adoption metrics and KPIs. Let's jump right into it, starting with step number. For step number 1, you want to define your success criteria. What do I mean by that? Well, you want to begin by clarifying what success looks like for your specific initiative. Now, success criteria vary by project. What adoption means for a new human resources system might be different from a sales force rollout or an ERP rollout, which is why it is important to be specific for your specific project. What does success look like? Examples of success criteria include things like 90% of employees are actively logging into a new CRM within 60 days, or completion of mandatory compliance training by 100% of staff. Another one is demonstrated use of a new workflow in 80% of departmental reports. One thing you will notice on these adoption success criteria examples is they are specific, they are measurable. Emphasis here on measurable. And that moves us to step number 2. For step number 2, you want to select measurable adoption indicators. So for step number 2, you want to ensure that you are choosing adoption indicators that give you a balanced view. A balanced view involves quantitative as well as qualitative KPIs and metrics. A quantitative metric is a measure that is expressed in numbers and can be counted, calculated, and compared objectively. Quantitative change management KPIs, they answer the questions like how much, how many, and they provide hard data that can be tracked over time. Here are some examples of quantitative metrics. System login frequency. You can track that before and after the change. Task completion rates. You can track that before and after the change. Training attendance and certification pass rates are just another example. Process compliance scores is one more example. Let us now transition to qualitative metrics. A qualitative matrix is a measure that captures descriptive, subjective, or experiential data, which are data that is usually expressed in spoken form rather than numbers. It really answers the questions: how do people feel? What do they think? Or why is this happening? For OCM, Organizational Change Management Qualitative Matrix, you will want to include employee sentiment surveys. You want to include focus group insights. You want to include feedback from managers on how they are seeing their employees adopting the new ways of doing things. And that brings us to step number 3. For step number 3, you want to gather baseline data. Baseline data allows you to compare the before and the after performance. Without baseline data, adoption metrics, they lose their context. A lot of times when you are presenting to leadership, you want to be able to show that picture, the before and also the after, as a way of showing the effectiveness of your change management activities. Examples of baseline data includes, or baseline measurements include current usage rates of legacy systems. So think about that before the change, measuring that before level. How are people currently using the legacy system before the new system is implemented? And when you send out surveys or you ask this question during focus groups or you ask managers, they will be able to tell you that information. What about the next one? Before the process changes, and this once again is an example, before the process changes, there used to be a high level of errors that users were experiencing. And then afterwards, when you measure after implementing the new processes, the expectation is those error rates should drop, right? Which is why it's important to have that baseline measurement. Another example is employee satisfaction scores before the changes, before the transformation. So that is why it is important for you to have your baseline data, because you are going to be comparing those into against the data after you've rolled out your change management activities and also changes. And here is a real live example that we conducted to illustrate today's demo. If you are using an organizational change management software like the OCM solution software linked below that I am currently sharing on my screen, one of the things you will want to measure is change readiness, the overall readiness of the impacted users. And to do that, you want to go into the readiness template. In this particular case, I'm going to click on this. And you will notice here that we conducted 2 rounds of change readiness assessment. When we did the first change readiness assessment, the average score was low. And then we implemented the changes as well as doing change management, communications, training, stakeholder engagement, roadshows. After that, we did another survey to measure that level of readiness. And what you will see here is, based on the successes of the change management activities, we now identified users were rating their level of readiness very high. So this picture paints what you will want to see when you do your baseline change management adoption measurement and when you do your post baseline assessment. The expectation is you should be seeing a big difference. In the beginning, low adoption. Eventually, you should be seeing high levels of adoption, and you want to present this picture to your leadership. And that moves us to step number 4. For step number 4, you want to collect adoption data. So you want to gather data systematically using multiple channels, surveys and polls. So you want to get quick employee sentiment checks, system generated reports, which are normally automated. They show automated ways of how people are using the new system, login statistics. You don't have to track this manually. You just have to run a report to see how people are using the system. Another one is performance dashboards. So departments normally have their own performance dashboards. The project might also have its own metrics. You want to ensure you are integrating those into your change management adoption tracking, adoption measurement tracking, so that you can have everything under the same umbrella. Now, here is something else. In regards to focus groups and interviews, these are things that are very critical to increasing the success of your change management activities. If you are not talking to impacted users, if you are not doing interviews, if you are not doing focus groups, it reduces your ability to really get firsthand knowledge of how people are reacting to the changes. So focus groups and interviews, they provide rich, qualitative insights on adoption challenges. And that moves us to step number 5. For step number 5, you want to monitor progress continuously. Adoption isn't a one-time event. It is an ongoing process. So you want to set a measurement cadence, for example, weekly, monthly, or quarterly, where you have to do your change adoption KPI measurement, depending on the size of your project. You want to ensure you are tracking trends, for example, early adoption wins, quick indicators of success, resistance hotspots. So departments or individual are struggling to adopt the change. You want to ensure that you are capturing that information as soon as possible so you can tweak your adoption strategy to mitigate that leading to resistance. Adoption plateaus. This is a situation where growth slows down and new change management engagement and interventions are needed. So, in a way, what you want to do is apply or leverage a visual dashboard, and a lot of change management software do have change management adoption KPIs and metrics tracking capability, including the OCM solutions software, the link below. But you want to ensure that you are tracking these visual dashboards to identify trends. And that brings us to step number 6. For step number 6, you will want to share insights with stakeholders and also leadership. One thing that I normally tell my change management consulting clients is that it is very important to share change management insights with stakeholders to get them engaged and also in the loop. Stakeholders and leadership, they oftentimes want at a high level, but they want to be kept in the loop. And so let's dive a little bit into sharing and socializing insights with your stakeholders. You want to communicate adoption progress openly with executives, sponsors, and managers. You want to use visual reporting tools like heat maps, charts, pie charts, bar charts, scorecards to highlight adoption successes and progress. Sharing insights really helps to build trust with your leadership, to show accountability, and it encourages sponsor reinforcement. Okay. Now, there are some key things also to keep in mind in regards to sharing information. You don't want to overshare because you overwhelm leadership and senior stakeholders with too many information, which is why we recommend that you focus your measurements and KPIs to just 5 to 7 key KPIs. That way, you can be able to present those in just a few slides, because leadership, they do not want to look at a 40-page or 40-slide deck. Okay. So when it comes to leadership, less is more. Now, something else is you want to use your findings, and this right here we are looking at is a bonus point. You want to use your findings, whatever it is that you identify, to, when necessary, pivot your change management strategies. If you find out that some of the things that are being done are not making a difference, they are not moving the needle, then you want to decide to change your change management approach for those specific activities to make sure that across all your change management deliverables, you are actually making a difference. Now, I know we have talked a lot about so many things today. And so, to help you integrate everything that we've discussed, I have put together a free checklist. The link is below. When you take a look at this checklist, and I have a screenshot of the checklist on my screen, you will notice a couple of things. One, it's a very simple checklist that includes key steps, and within those key steps, one or two or three key activities for you to complete. Once again, it is a free checklist, and if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me. And this right here on my screen are the 6 steps on how to do a change adoption matrix tracking and also measurement. Watch the next video and continue to increase your success. Also, check out the free resources, links below, and other videos that we have created to help you increase your change management successes and journey. See you there.